Thank you so much for joining us, Sameer. Truly a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
At the outset, many congratulations on your second innings in the entertainment industry in terms of a corporate innings. You were turned entrepreneur when I interviewed you last. Why this transition?
I've been advising Balaji for the last 6 months as part of an advisory group on how to work with the company and how to scale up the company and how to grow it.
Okay.
And the sort of outcome of all of this sort of planning was that we need to take the company in a particular direction. Out of that, the conversation arose that now that having spent so much time in doing all of that, would I like to actually now enough of the planning, and would you like to execute it?
So, I mean, you talked about that you were consulting with Balaji on the direction the company should take. What is this direction that both of you together envisage?
Basically, the thing is that Balaji is an extremely successful and it's a very powerful content house. But I've always felt, and they agreed as well, that the company has always been sort of undervalued in that sense, as in it's not realized its full potential.
Okay.
It could be much bigger and it could do many more things, but sort of it needs to make that big leap forward. So I guess part of the discussions and what came out of it was that we are looking now for scale and growth. So growth in television, both in volume and value, and through collaboration and organic, and then of course the movie business, which is the big deal. Currently, Balaji, I think the last year we did 4 to 6 movies.
Sure.
The idea is to get to about 10 to 12 on a steady state, and have a movie pipeline and do movies ranging from smaller movies to bigger movies. So, and then apart from that, there are many other ideas.
Like?
New media and distribution, screens, things like that. But I mean, all of that is a process of making plans and then seeing how to do it.
Just to zoom into the television bit, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in the last few years, Balaji was focusing more on their film business than TV, and because they thought that the film business is probably one that they can keep their IP, and it's probably going to give better returns, as opposed to TV, which I believe the margins are decreasing. Please tell me that's actually the case. But that there seems to be a turnaround in strategy, because I mean, clearly with you coming in, the big focus here will be TV.
Actually, in the last few years, Balaji has actually had a really good run on TV, and in fact, as we speak, we have 6 shows on air. And quite a few more coming up. Now, me coming in here is not really to grow the existing TV business. I mean, I think the real focus is to expand the business and to grow the movie slate.
If I had to take you back in time and go back to your star days, for instance, in that era, right? Balaji was was top dog when it comes to a production house. Today, with number of production houses, the competition, so many broadcasters, etc., they're not really in terms of sheer mind space and perception, the queen or the king of content as they used to be. Do you agree with that? And how are you looking to revitalize that going forward?
See, first of all, that period, that point in time, there were only 3 channels, of which at that time, Star with KBC and then the K-soaps got off to such an incredible sort of advantageous position that obviously our main program supplier, which was Balaji, would become the dominant production house in the space, because there were only 3 channels and there were only so many shows to make, and they made it all for us. But again, as I say, in recent years, and especially the last 2-3 years, Balaji has really come into its own on television. And in fact, as we speak today, with 6 shows on air and with more coming up, it remains, for all practical purposes, the #1 production house. It's just that it's not like those days, because there were only 3 channels at the time. So it was like, they, in a horse race of 3, they were #1 by far.
What is your plan, as CEO for Balaji in the content space, especially when I talk about TV programming, given the fact that we've all seen TV programming for the last 5, 7, 10 years, and yeah, sure, there has been some evolution. But if you look at the last few years, it's broadly been the same. Yeah, sure, there was some experiment with mythology, and you were one of the pioneers with that. But the experimentation has been quite slight. It's not really been path-breaking, so to speak. Where is the new big idea, if at all, required in the TV space?
The new big thing, I mean, there's always this push for the new thing, as in there's going to be some sort of new, pot of gold.
That's why I asked you, if required.
But I don't know whether it's going to, that like there's going to be a big drop dead moment when that happens. It's a process of evolution. Like now, like they did 24 last year. Now Yudh has come on to air. So the audience is sort of growing up, and as it grows up, we are introducing new programming type. So I think as we go forward, there is a lot of interest in this high concept fiction, which a lot of people are going towards. I think this whole concept of a GEC is dying or dead.
Really?
And what we have actually is, you have larger niche entertainment channels, which are catering. So like for example, and some of these niches are pretty big. Like women becomes a pretty big niche, right? So a GEC in the in the classic old days used to be a 6 to 60 male, female, SEC A to E, everything. And experimentation will go on. See, you've got to get the economics right.
Exactly.
What happens is that television, TV shows are not about the stars. A TV show is always bigger than the star. The story is bigger than the production design.
Right.
But the writing is bigger than everything else.
Right.
And that's why US television is so successful.
Exactly,
because it's the writing with superior production design and excellent actors. That's the combination. It's not pegged on a star. So if you get the economics right, I think you can do wonders with Indian television.
So, I'm glad you brought that point, and you're taking the US example because they've also bounced back quite well.
Right.
And you talked about, how they're pivoting their entire, content. But if you look at India, for instance, you look at two big, fiction shows that have been sort of path-breaking would be 24, which is again adapted, but it's Yudh, which is, something new. Both required big Bollywood stars or big faces, so to speak, to sell that. I mean, are you suggesting that, is the broadcaster somewhere scared that it won't get the push it deserves if they didn't have a big face?
It's not that both required. It was a matter of choice. Right?
But why? That the choice was strategic, right?
Right. The choice was that, you can choose to do different things. So you can choose to, say that let's make this show, and I think for this show, this would be a right fit. So it's a decision that you take. I think what you learn from these decisions is that, like if the economics don't work, right? I mean, if the show becomes too expensive and you don't get your desired result, then then it's regarded as a failure, right? As it didn't work. And so I think as we go forward, this is going to be a topic of much heated debate. That extremely strong writing with extremely good production design with excellent actors. And mixed up in that manner. See, if the whole thing is pegged on the star per se and not on the show,
right?
That's not the way that TV works.
If I asked you to wear your not your Balaji hat, and just as a veteran and observer, from the time, let's say, you were with a broadcaster, be it Imagine or Star, to how broadcasters are now buying from production houses or commissioning to production houses, do you see a difference in terms of their expectations as vis-a-vis what was happening in that regime or era?
Well, the only difference that I can see from then to now is that the market has grown like manifold. The market has grown from the year 2000 to now. It's obviously grown like 3, 4, 5 times. And regretfully, the cost of content has gone down. One would have thought that, from those days to now, with growth in market, growth in size, growth in scope, growth in all of that, the actual cost, even if you just adjust it for inflation, should be a lot more.
Sure. So
that's sort of unfortunate part. And I think that's something that should be, there should be more money that comes down into the food chain, so that, that's the only way you can improve, right?
Right.
If the cost of content is depressed, then, as they say, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
So is this because this is a demand-supply issue? Or?
I don't know what issue is there, but the thing is that currently the content business, maybe it's it's a wrong deployment of capital, and maybe some things cost too much, some things cost too less. But just in general, if you've got to take the game up to know what everyone keeps asking, that when's the next big thing, when's the next new thing,
right,
then that is going to come with sort of more spend, and of course, I agree always with a risk and reward. There should be a risk reward inbuilt into this business. It's not there at present, which means that the entire risk is the broadcasters. Sure. So to that extent, the entire reward is there.
The other big buzz was that, post your coming in also, there's been thought from before about you entering the regional business.
Regional business in production, yes. We are actually, Balaji used to be a very big producer down south in the late 90s.
Right.
And also the 90s, in fact, they did a lot of work on Sun TV.
Right.
In fact, they used to do daily soaps in the south before they did Kyunki and Kahani.
Okay.
So then after that, then that was sort of wound down. So yes, obviously the regional markets are big. Again, you got to see how it works. So we are looking at each market. I just met somebody last week who was telling me that the production business in South India is no fun to be in. TV production business, as in it's like a complete, it's a dog's life kind of thing. So, so I mean, obviously we won't go into any business where it doesn't make sense to go. But yeah, regional is big. And then also look at then regional movies. The same thing, South movies, Tamil and Telugu movies is a big sort of focus area.
Thank you so much, Samir. Lovely meeting you.
Thank you so much.
All the best.
Thank you so much.